let's talk Jimmy Garoppolo for a while because he might not be on the team that much longer. Or he could be here another year. As Adam Schefter said, a lot of people got mad at him for saying, oh, he just wants attention. I don't know, man. It's Adam Schefter. I think there's some merit to what he's saying. I mean, from our perspective, we know Jimmy Garoppolo very well, and you could sort of tell other fan bases and organizations why they should want him, why he'd be good for them. But the more I actually listen to other fan bases and read articles from other markets, no one's saying Jimmy makes the most sense. Haven't found one team that says Jimmy makes the most sense for us. Have you?
No, I hear people saying, well, if things don't work out, we could settle for Jimmy.
Right. But I mean, the way it looks to me right now, I made a list, hold on, of all the quarterbacks who are available right now. Man, and I lost the list. Hold on. Okay, so here's the problem with Jimmy Garoppolo. You got to trade for him. Yes. And then you either have to pay him a lot. You have to pay him $27 million or extend him. So it's quite an investment.
It is.
And there are comparable quarterbacks who are way cheaper. Like Carson Wentz is going to get cut. And if you look at their numbers, it's hard to say that Jimmy's better than Carson Wentz. Neither one's super exciting, but you could really argue that, like Pittsburgh, why should I trade a second or a third for Jimmy Garoppolo when I could just sign Carson Wentz? And it's the same stopgap bridge thing. You know?
In particular, if your plan is that it's a stopgap, right? You're going to draft a rookie this year. It's only going to be for 2 or 3 seasons. Why not go with the less expensive version?
Because look, everyone knows what Jimmy Garoppolo is. I don't think anyone thinks he has upside. I don't think anyone thinks he's getting better. I don't think anyone thinks you can win a Super Bowl with him. So there are virtues to Jimmy Garoppolo, but I don't understand why you make that kind of investment when he's basically a stopgap at best. Maybe the Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill high-level backup for a year who needs to – because honestly, I don't know where he's starting this year if it's not with the Niners. Because Carson Wentz is on the market. Jameis Winston's on the market for cheap. Teddy Bridgewater, Mitchell Trubisky. Those are guys you can sign to be stopgaps. And then there's the trade market. Aaron Rodgers, is he available? Tom Brady, is he available? Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray. There's a lot of things going out there. And so I guess depending on how the market shakes out, some team might feel compelled to get Jimmy. But right now, I don't think that's any team's number one option. So right now, what is Jimmy Garoppolo's trade value, in your opinion?
Well, it's interesting.
If the Niners felt they had to do it today.
Oof. Well, my impression is that everybody's blowing smoke at this particular junction. The Niners are absolutely blowing smoke through every available option that they have, right? All the team-friendly reporters are coming out with all these reports, Jay Glazer, Peter King. Oh, well, the Niners are considering bringing Jimmy Garoppolo back. I mean, you know, he's valuable. He can add to he wins. So that's smoke to me. That is, the Niners have zero intention of bringing Jimmy back, but we can, get into that in a little bit.
I'm not so sure. So sure. That's what we're going to be talking about for about the next 20, 25 minutes. So let's get into it. Yes.
And so to me, then you have the other side that's putting out there are all these other available quarterbacks who are of comparable value. And so the trade market is actually pretty soft. And so you have national reporters coming out with that. To me, it's smoke on both sides of that equation. And the truth is still somewhere in the middle. And it hasn't changed for me. If I've got to put the 49ers on the hot seat right now and a team comes in with a trade offer, I'm still going second round value for Jimmy Garoppolo.
I don't see it, man. I don't think there's a trade market for him. I think what we're seeing is there might be a trade market in a couple of months, depending how things work out. Like if Aaron Rodgers doesn't get traded, Brady stays retired, Wilson doesn't get traded, Kirk Cousins doesn't get traded, Watson doesn't get resolved, Kyler, like if things shake out a certain way, maybe.
Right.
But right now, he's so far down the want list for any team.
Yeah.
I think like if the Niners, like right now, I think his trade value is nothing or maybe a 6th at best. It could be different down the line, but really, I think it's a 6th at best right now. And I think that's why we're starting to hear things like, well, maybe the Niners could keep him another year. If they keep him another year and he starts, they'll actually get a 3rd round comp pick for him in 2023. So then Schefter's like, should you take the 2 now? The 2. What if it's a 6? What if it's like teams are like, nah, you know what? We're sort of in wait and see mode. So we'll come back to you on Jimmy Garoppolo, but no one's willing to pull the trigger on that yet. I think it's a 6th at best. And I think that's why the Niners are in a really tough spot with Jimmy Garoppolo. They're like, are we going to get are we going to get ridiculed for this? Are people going to think we sold low? Are people going to think that we actually ruined this guy and we took an asset and that was a second round pick and won all these games, but everyone knew that we didn't like him and they were winning in spite of him, and that we ruined it. We talked him down. And now he's a sixth. We'll get crushed in the media for that. So I think what we're seeing right now is a surprisingly bear market for this guy, and the Niners being like, how do we spin this? Because it could change in a month and everything could have a happy ending. But right now, how do we spin this? This is bad.
It would be very bad if the Niners ended up devaluing an asset in this whole process, right? But my point is, I think you're right about
what they could have got from 2 years ago after they went to the Super Bowl. A 1?
Yeah.
A 1.
Yeah.
So they held on to him too long is what they did. And that's
There's no question about that.
Because we're going to talk about players to trade a little bit longer. You don't – what did Bill Walsh say? You trade a player
a year before they start that decline.
Because of this.
Yeah.
Because of this. If you can't trade Jimmy, everyone knows what he is. And everyone knows what he is. He's paid a lot of money. There's no upside there. It's not an exciting move. So this is an example of holding onto a guy a year or too long. And that's why I feel like this whole trade market was always wishful thinking.
I think you've portrayed the Niner side of it very well. On the other side, I do believe that it is people attempting to promote the idea that there are all these options available. But when you start to go down the list, from a month ago until now, everything is trending in the direction of the 49ers' favor. Everything is trending in a direction of supply and demand working toward Jimmy Garoppolo getting traded, because you look at each individual case. As this Aaron Rodgers thing drags on, you hear more information coming out about it from the Packers front office. It sure as heck sounds like they're going to play hardball again. And Rodgers, bluffed last season. They called his bluff and he was back with Green Bay. I think it's very likely that Rodgers ends up with Green Bay for another season or retiring and playing hardball in that regard. And then Russell Wilson, it's looking more and more like he's going to be back in Seattle. Deshaun Watson, news coming out recently that, things aren't clearing up quite as well as you would want with all of those cases. The NFL still has a potential suspension lingering over him. And so you see one by one, these quarterback assets looking like they're not going to be available. And pretty soon, like the cream rises to the top. I don't know if I can call Jimmy Garoppolo cream, but he starts to become one of the most attractive assets.
Here's the problem, though. I mean, let's start going through the teams that would actually be interested in him if there are teams.
Okay.
I mean, everyone goes to Pittsburgh first. Well,
yes.
What happens when if they decide that Carson Wentz is better, has a stronger – because here's the problem with Jimmy. Here's why teams don't want Jimmy. He's afraid to throw the ball down the field. He doesn't push the ball down. He shrinks the field. Yeah. He plays football on a miniature field. He doesn't throw the ball outside the numbers. He doesn't throw the ball down the field. The field is literally smaller for him. And so that's why he throws more interceptions. Everyone knows you don't have to defend certain parts of the field. I forget the injuries. Carson Wentz gets injured. It's the fact that he plays on a miniature football field. That's frustrating. And you don't have Deebo Samuel. You don't have George Kittle. You don't have Kyle Shanahan. So it's hard to work with that. I think that's the main hesitancy. So a team like Pittsburgh, they could work with Jimmy Garoppolo, but I'd rather have Wentz. So you take Pittsburgh out of the equation. What about a team like Washington? Well, what they could do is sign, say, Jameis Winston or Teddy Bridgewater to be the bridge quarterback. And they're not necessarily better than Jimmy, but they could then draft Malik Willis with the 11th pick. Because if you sign Jimmy, then if you trade for Jimmy, you're probably not drafting a quarterback at all. And Washington tried that last year with the injury-prone vet and Ryan Fitzpatrick and just wasted a freaking year. So my bold prediction is that Jimmy Garoppolo will not be a starting quarterback in the NFL next season unless he's on the 49ers. And we can talk about that in a minute. But let's focus on the rest of the league. I don't think any team looks at him as we want him to be our starting quarterback this year. I think a lot of teams might look at him as, that'd be a nice, how Tannehill was on the bench for a year or Trubisky was on the bench for a year. Like I like him. I like him. But not as my starter this year. I'd rather give it to someone with freaking upside because we know Jimmy has none. And if that doesn't work out, then we got Jimmy. Yeah. We have Jimmy and his consistently inconsistent performances.
I could definitely see the truth being that he's nobody's free agent crush. He's nobody's first choice to go to the dance with. But I do
Right.
think when you
Yeah.
start to look at comparisons, as you did there with Carson Wentz, I do think teams will consider, yes, Jimmy Garoppolo limits you. I was surprised to see that over last season, it was only 30% of his throws were actually limited to that middle of the field area. It was surprising to me that statistically speaking, it wasn't a higher percentage of throws. But I agree with you, it limits an offense. For the Steelers, though, they had a fairly limited offense
he was one of the quarterbacks. I mean, he doesn't push the ball down the field very much.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But in the Steelers offense this past season, neither did Ben Roethlisberger, and they were able to do well. When you compare him directly to Carson Wentz, you look at, to me, if I'm trying to sell Jimmy Garoppolo over Wentz, I look at a team that started out, looking like the wheels were coming off. And then a quarterback who, even with the controversy of having a number 3 overall pick that the organization traded up significant assets to get, was able to keep the locker room together, was able to be the quarterback, the figurehead for a team that resurged and made it to the NFC Championship game. Whereas at the tail end of the season, Carson Wentz appeared to be failing in that regard and dropping off.
Carson Wentz had a better season than Jimmy Garoppolo last year, like by
statistically.
far. Yeah, and like with the Steelers, they were 29th in net yards per attempt in passing last week. So their passing offense was awful. And just to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, like, let's keep doing what we were doing, is not what they should do. And the thing, we could argue who's better, Carson Wentz or Jimmy Garoppolo. I think it's Wentz, but the point here is that you don't have to trade for Wentz. He's gonna get cut. He's going to be way cheaper. And so when you factor that in, I think it's hard to justify trading. I mean, unless the Niners take that 6th, unless you're like, whatever, I'll give him a 6th. And unless the Niners are willing to take that PR hit, because it is a PR hit, then great. So that's where I think the Niners stand right now. Hold on. David says Grant got his wish. I did too. Now bringing a real quarterback coach. Thank you. I agree.